Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling what is, I think, often cited as the most nerve-wracking part of the whole process for candidates globally,
Oh, absolutely. The writing section.
the IELTS academic writing section. Our mission is very, very specific. We're drilling down to find out what structure, what strategy, and, what little linguistic tweaks you need to focus on to confidently land that band 6.5.
And that 6.5 is such a critical benchmark.
It really is.
It's the score that says you have a genuinely intermediate level of control over English. We're not just talking about vocabulary here. We're talking about grammar, understanding paraphrased language.
And being able to build an argument.
Exactly. It shows you can deliver a point of view effectively in writing. It's a
Yeah.
very solid score.
Right. And our sources suggest, 6 to 8 weeks of focused study is kind of the standard. But this deep dive, this is your shortcut. We want to focus that effort.
Especially because of the weighting.
That's the key strategic nugget, isn't it? Writing task 2, that big essay, is worth twice as much as task 1. So if you're pressed for time, that's where you put your energy.
It has to be the priority.
Okay, so let's unpack task 1 first. We're calling this the architect's blueprint because
Fine.
structure is just everything.
Everything.
You get a visual, a graph, a chart, something like that, and you have to summarize the key information. At least 150 words.
And you have a strict 20 minutes to do it.
20 minutes, that's it.
And for this task, the structure isn't just, a good idea. It's rigorously assessed.
All right.
If you miss a piece of it, your score ceiling just drops.
So what are the non-negotiables?
There are 3 key steps.
Yeah.
First, the introduction. This is simple. You just paraphrase the question, say what the graph shows, what time period it covers.
Okay.
Second, the overview. Now, this is the synthesis step. This is where you highlight the key trends. Are things going up, down? What are the main features?
And crucially, you do this without any specific numbers, right?
Yeah, exactly. No numbers in the overview. This is the big picture. And frankly, a good overview is often the difference between a band 5.5 and a 6.5.
Because it proves you're analyzing, not just listing.
Precisely. And then third, you have your detailed paragraphs. This is where you finally bring in the numbers. You pick the most relevant data points and you compare them.
So don't just list everything you see.
Please don't. Compare the start and end points, the highs and the lows.
And the language here has to be precise. You can't just say, it went up a lot.
No. You need the language of trends. We're talking rose dramatically, experienced a sharp dip, fluctuated wildly.
Reached a peak or a sudden fall.
Right. And this is where a tiny, tiny detail can sink an otherwise good report.
Okay, what is it?
Prepositions.
Preposition.
Yes. Specifically, the prepositions you use when describing statistical movements. I have seen countless papers get this wrong.
So give us an example. What's a common mistake?
A really common one is something like the number of people peaked to 5,523.
Right. That sounds plausible, almost correct.
It does, but it's structurally flawed in formal writing. The verb peaked sets a specific point, a specific altitude, and that altitude requires the preposition at.
So it has to be peaked at 5,523.
It has to be. That little error, it shows an unstable foundation with statistical language, and that can really interrupt the fluency you need for a 6.5.
Okay, that's a fantastic specific fix. Let's pivot now to the heavy hitter, task 2.
The main event.
The argumentative essay, 40 minutes, 250 words minimum, and it carries that double weight we mentioned. This is vital.
And it's assessed across 4 areas: your content, your coherence, your vocabulary, and your grammar.
So just like with task 1, structure must be key.
It gives your essay credibility. Aim for 4 paragraphs, minimum. First, the introduction. Paraphrase the prompt and critically state your stance, your opinion. Don't hide it.
Be clear from the start.
Be crystal clear. Then you have 2 or 3 body paragraphs. Each one needs a clear topic sentence, some explanation, and this is important, a concrete example.
That example is what makes the idea real, right? It shows you really understand it.
It demonstrates depth. Absolutely. And finally, the conclusion. Summarize your stance and maybe offer a final thought on the bigger picture.
Okay, so the sources highlight something here that seems simple but is brutal if you get it wrong.
I think I know what you're talking about.
You have to cover all parts of the question.
Yes, all of them. If it asks you to discuss a problem and suggest solutions and you only do one,
You're capped.
your score is automatically capped for cast response. You haven't done what was asked.
And this leads right into vocabulary, doesn't it? The prompt itself.
It does. A huge tip is to avoid copying phrases directly from the prompt. You have to show you have control of the language.
Which means paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing is central to a band 6.5. If the question uses the word children, you should use young people. or the youth or adolescents. Show the examiner your vocabulary has depth.
So that's lexical resource. What about grammatical range? How do you show range beyond just being accurate?
Great question. You can't just use simple sentences. You have to show you can handle complex structures. And the most reliable way to do this is by mastering relative clauses.
Okay, so you mean the clauses that start with words like who, which, or that?
Exactly. They let you combine simple ideas into more elegant, more informative sentences.
Can you walk us through an example? How would a learner upgrade a simple sentence?
Of course. So instead of writing two simple sentences like, the government should invest in public transport, this transport reduces carbon emissions.
Right. Very basic.
You combine them. The government should invest in public transport, which significantly reduces carbon emissions.
Ah, much more sophisticated. It shows the relationship between the ideas.
It's the cornerstone of intermediate language use. Get that right, and your whole essay just elevates from a 5.5 to a 6.5.
All right, now let's get into what I call the aha moments. These are 3 specific high-impact errors we see over and over.
And they are so heavily penalized.
Because they show a fundamental instability in the grammar. So if you fix just these, you could pull a shaky 6.0 up to a solid 6.5.
The first one is comparisons of adjectives and adverbs. People get very confused about whether to use an "er" ending or the word more.
Especially with adverbs.
Especially with adverbs. So a common mistake is something like, students can learn a second language easier than a third.
We know easier isn't a word, but what's the underlying rule here?
The rule is that adverbs, words describing how you do something, almost always take the more form. So the correction is, students can learn a second language more easily than a third.
More easily. Got it.
And on a similar note, be careful with redundancy and superlatives. I often see the most highest percentage.
You don't need both.
You don't need both. Just say the highest percentage. Using both is a clear red flag to the examiner.
Okay, what's error number 2?
Our second one is countable versus uncountable nouns. This determines whether you use words like many or much or number versus amount.
This feels really basic, but I guess it trips a lot of people up.
Constantly. The quick rule is few, a few, and number for things you can count. Pencils, stores, people. Little, a little much, and amount are for things you can't. Water, information, advice.
So if I wrote, technology brings much advantages, what's the fix?
Advantages are countable, so you have to use many. Technology brings many advantages, or a lot of advantages.
Okay, and what about the amount of fast food stores?
Stores are countable, so it has to be the number of fast food stores. It's an easy fix once you see it, but it's a constant source of error.
And our third major pitfall?
Tenses. Specifically, mixing up the past simple and the present perfect.
Ah, yes. This is tricky because they both refer to the past.
They do, but the distinction is all about the connection to the present. Past simple is for finished actions in a finished time. I visited my aunt a year ago. It's done. Over.
And present perfect.
That connects the past to now. It's for an action that started in the past and is still going on. Or, and this is key for task 2, an action that happened in the past but has a continuing result right now.
Okay, let's use a classic IELTS essay example. A candidate writes, obesity became a global problem. What does that imply?
By using the past simple became, it implies the problem is over. Finished. Like the Roman Empire.
But it's not.
It is absolutely not. It's still a problem now. So you have to use the present perfect to show that ongoing relevance. It must be. Obesity has become a global problem. Mastering that connection is vital.
All right, we're moving on to the final polish. These are the small details that, can really add up and drag down a score. We're talking about articles.
A, and, the, or, no article.
Exactly. These can chip away at your accuracy score even if your structure is flawless.
It's often one of the last things advanced learners master, but for a 6.5, you have to get the basics of the right.
So walk us through the high-stakes rules for using the.
Okay, first, use the when the thing is unique. The world, the internet, the main reason, there's only one. Second, always use the with superlatives. The best solution, the highest figure.
But the real danger zone is using the when you shouldn't, isn't it?
Absolutely. The most frequent penalty is adding the when you're speaking generally about uncountable or plural nouns.
For example?
A candidate might write, the technology is rapidly advancing.
And the error there is?
If you're talking about technology as a general concept, it's an uncountable noun. It needs no article. The sentence must be, technology is rapidly advancing. Same thing with life was more difficult, not the life.
Knowing when to leave it out is as important as knowing when to put it in.
It's foundational for that accuracy score at band 6.5.
And let's just quickly reinforce that idea of paraphrasing. We mentioned it for task 2, but it's just as important for task 1.
Absolutely. You cannot copy the question. It immediately shows a limited vocabulary. If you can't rephrase the prompt, you cannot get a 6.5. It's that simple.
A good tip might be to just brainstorm a few synonyms for key words before you even start writing.
That's a great strategy. It gets you started with varied language from the very beginning.
So, when we put this all together, what's the blueprint for success? It seems to come down to a combination of two things. Disciplined structural adherence. That intro, overview, body, conclusion framework is non-negotiable. And then just ruthless execution on the grammar.
Especially eradicating those common errors. The comparisons, the countability issues, the tense mix-ups, and the articles.
The examiners are looking for consistent control, right? Not perfection.
Exactly. Not perfect English, but reliably accurate English in these high-impact areas. If you focus your practice there, that 6.5 is absolutely within reach.
So since achieving a 6.5 means you have to fluently understand and generate this kind of sophisticated, paraphrased language, here's a final thought for you to consider. Sharpening these skills doesn't just help your writing score. It fundamentally changes how quickly you absorb information across all 4 parts of the test.
That's a great point.
Reading, listening, speaking, it all gets easier. You're turning exam prep into genuine, lasting mastery of the language. Focus on the structure and the grammar, and fluency will follow.
We wish you the best of luck with your deep dive into the study material.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.